Good evening everybody, hope you're all well. Tonight is all about learning how to do a Russian spiral bracelet. So it's using needle and thread technique, which I know a lot of you have done, but there will be quite a few of you that have never done it before. And you can practice with ordinary needle and thread, but it's not ideal. You're going to need a specialist size needle, which does take a little bit of getting used to. You probably can't even see that. You need a size 10 beaded needle. They're available from the group thread. Message me if you can't find them. So a size 10 beaded needle, and you will need some specialist thread. Very tiny amount left there, isn't there? And there's also some reels of what we call Nymo as well. I wouldn't use ordinary sewing thread because it's not strong enough. It's okay to practice with, but it's not strong enough to sustain. Hello Carol, hello Nikki. So let's go on straight on the overhead because we've got quite a lot to cover tonight. So here we go. This is you're waving. I know you're waving, Jew. So there you go. They're the bracelets. I'm going to show you a couple of top tips along the way, a few hurdles that I needed to overcome whilst I was actually doing them, and showing you what tips I picked up along the way to overcome them, what materials we use, so needle and thread. In the group I've put up 3 different coloured kits. Now all you need to add to them is your needle and your thread. So there's this one, and we're going to use this tonight. Hello Rosie. That's that one. I've part made it because obviously I want to show you the whole thing, but it takes time. There's also this one, which is the cream one, but they're such a bargain. Oh, I've done a really tiny one which shows you how to do the peach. So do hop on over. So you've got the beads, the seed beads all in there, the clasp, and also crystals for the end. So I've got crystals for the end bit. Would love to know how many of you have done any bead weaving, if you've heard of it before. Maybe some of you have even done the Russian spiral. Now I'm going to use black thread so that it's a bit easier for you to see. Let's just zoom in a little bit. And we're going to use the purple ones. But if I happen to miss anything, please do feel free to ask questions as we go. You don't have to use 2 different coloured seed beads, but I'm going to anyway. I'm using the gunmetal. Let's move that out of the way. Actually, we'll keep one of them on there, so if anybody's coming in a little bit later and they wonder what the heck we're making, and that's opaque grey. Of course, you can make this in a necklace. If you wanted to buy the kits, I suggest you buy 2 to make a necklace. Now I'm going to pop a little stopper bead on there to begin with. First of all, what I'd recommend you do is cut maybe 1.5 meters if you're able to work with it, because the more you can work with, the less thread you're going to have to add in. Now I would wax it as well. Now you can see how well mine's been waxed. I've still got one of these left if anybody wants to buy one. It helps to prevent fraying, and it helps to maintain keeping your needle threaded. So we've got about 4 or 5 inches tail at the bottom, and I'm going to just go back up. This is just a stopper bead. Do not tie it on because you're going to ruin your thread. You want it on that way so that you can just glide it off. So that's the stopper bead. The other thing you can do, I love these are little stopper beads as well, that you can just basically squeeze and pop on to your thread as well. And those are a bit more secure, to be honest. They don't move so much. So we're going to use one of our beads, 3 or 4 mil. In fact, if I put the stopper on, it doesn't confuse matters, does it? You might be thinking I'm adding an extra bead on. So we put 1 3 to 4 mil on, or whichever you're using. One colour, if we call that A and that B, 1 A colour, 1 B colour, and you repeat that until you've got 3 lots of each on your needle. I've got 3 lots of everything there. Thread is coming out of this end, and we are going to go all the way from the bottom and all the way back through those beads. So basically what you're doing is you're making a loop, making a circle. I'm going to what we call reinforce by going all the way back round. Now you may find it easier to go clockwise or anti-clockwise. It really doesn't matter, but just don't change direction part way through because you mess up your weave. We reinforce that, and we are going to push your needle through the bead and through the first seed bead in that group. Now this is where I found that I came across the first challenge. The first challenge I found was that when I did my second row, sometimes they dropped below the bead, sometimes they dropped above, and I found it really difficult to actually fathom out which was the first row, which was the second row. So you can do one or two things. You can either get yourself like something like this, which is a kebab stick, which is really easy to use. The only thing is it might make it stretch a little bit bigger than is required. The other thing is you can use this hollow tubing that you can buy. Now if anybody has got any orders and you'd like some, I can pop a metre of it in for you. I thought I only got the green, but you could probably colour it with Sharpie pens. And the other thing that this does as well is it actually makes it more solid all the way through. So whatever you choose to use, it's entirely up to you, but I would recommend it because it helps give you some visual way forward. So we're coming out of that bead there, the first bead, then we're going to add one of our glass beads, an A bead, and then a B bead. So you've got the 3 there, like so. Let's just separate those so you can see. So we're coming out of this one here, skip the next seed bead, skip the bead, and we go through the next bead in the row. And then we're going to pull that, and now this is what was happening before, is these were going underneath or above. I couldn't keep track. You want that to sit above. Okay, now going to pick up another glass bead, an A bead, a B bead, are going to skip the next bead in the row, which is that seed bead, skip the glass bead, and we are going to go through the next seed bead. The other thing that you could do is you could actually put, so that you know when you come to the end of a row, is at the start of every row you could put yourself 3 of your beads out, so that when you use the last one you know that it's time to do what we call stepping up. And this should be my step up third group of beads in a row. You go miss that one, and then you go through that lonely little bead then you go through the glass bead, and then the first bead in the row, or I should say the first bead after that, and just keep looking at the screen just to make sure we've gone okay there. Alright, so what we're going to do next is we're going to pop 3 beads out, so we know that if we've missed our step up, we've gone wrong. So 3 beads, 1 glass, 1 seed, and then we're going to miss the next one, the glass bead, and then go through the A bead. Comments, but I'm just going to concentrate on what I'm doing, and then so we're going through the first bead again afterwards. So we are then through that one there, up through the glass bead, so that's your step up. Whoops, no, you don't want to go there. And then through the first one. Now, because this kebab stick is making it a bit slack, I'm just going to take that off, just tighten it up a little bit. Right, okay, so that's the top view. So let's put to one side another 3 beads. So it's that bead, an A and a B. We skip that one, and go through that one there. And again, make sure you keep it on the top. Sometimes there's a little seal on the top of the beads that just makes it a bit difficult to get the needle in. Coming out of this, you're going to miss that one, and then go through that one there. Sometimes it's difficult to see what beads are actually in the previous row or the row before that. I think that's just what takes the practice, which is another reason why it's a good idea to have 2 different coloured seed beads. So this is our last one, so we're going to step up now. So if you can see, we've actually, on the step up, you have a single A bead that sits on its own, and then you're going to step up through the glass bead and through the first one. And let's just tighten that up, and let's just show you how that's looking so far. Okay, just going to keep going until you become familiar with the pattern. So we're only ever going through those dark, the gunmetal seed beads. If you go through the other colour, you've gone wrong somewhere. But let me know, especially those of you that have done it before, is this sort of, am I getting the right camera angles? Right, so this is number 3 in the row, you step up. Okay, 1, 2, 3. We go through the next A bead in a row. But with the step up, the bead looks differently, it sits differently. So when it's not an A bead, you've got an A and a B bead that sit together. But when you get the step up, that sort of disappears and you only seem to see one of the beads. So don't forget, on the last one, you're coming out of that one, you're going to skip over the main bead and you go through an A, a glass bead, and then an A again. Just pull that tight. So that's how it's looking. Right, let's just do a few more of those. As you can see, it's quite time consuming, but you will pick up pace as you get more used to it. I think it's just the start that is probably, I would say, the most difficult bit to get going. And then number 3. So number 3, you've only got the one A bead on its own. Okay. So I'll just do one more round and then I want to show you a few more things. Put those out because it really helps to have those 3 beads out. But I absolutely love this stitch, and you can actually create a rope as well so that there's no clasp with it. It has been a little while since I've done that, but you can just join the start to the end if you don't want a clasp. Now what I want to show you, so that's, now that is quite loose, so obviously you could reinforce by going back round. What I want to show you is with this, it's 2mm hollow, 2mm hollow plastic tubing, is if you pop that through there, see how much solid that becomes, and it becomes a lot easier on the eye. So let's just show you again. So if we take that out, it's quite squishy, and with a hollow tubing you don't have to have it, but particularly if you've got quite slack tension. And what I thought was, I mean, I've only got the green, but I can't see why you couldn't actually colour it with permanent Sharpie pens if it came through. I mean, you can't even see it on this, and I've got tubing all the way through. But what I'd just like to check with you, are you all okay with the generic stitch before I just show you how to finish it, how to tie in thread, how to tie off thread? Do let me know. You could also use, you could also make these into earrings as well. Now, whilst I'm just waiting for your reply, I am going to show you how to tie off thread and how to tie in another one, because it's doubtful, unless you've got enough to dust the floor, it's doubtful you're going to have enough thread to complete an entire bracelet. So I'm going to cut a length. I am going to wax it, and just going to find myself another needle. Now I always find that it helps to cut on a diagonal as well. Sharp pair of scissors, obviously not very sharp, cut it on a diagonal. Some people like to use a set of pliers and just flatten it as well, flatten the end. Do you know, I'm sure I've picked up a size 12 beading needle. which are not as easy to thread because they're for the smaller beads. This is one reason why I have all my needles threaded when I'm on Create and Craft, if I'm doing any needlework. Sorry, you can't see me threading. Right, there we go. Let's come through. Nikki said she found it easier using beads all the same size. So when you say beads all the same size, do you mean that you didn't use the 4mm? These are both size check size 10. Some of them I've put check size 10 and 11 together, and it really doesn't make a lot of difference. Looks stunning but quite fiddly. Frances is making a necklace with bugle beads in Christmas colours. There's going to be a rope, but I think it'll end up having a clasp. Now I understand that you can actually use the same technique with bugle beads on this. Is that what you're doing, Frances? Right, okay, so top tip. Running out of thread, I'd make sure you've got more than this left. And start off your new thread a bit further back. Do not tie off your old thread before you've tied in the new, because what will happen is you'll forget, I forget, where your previous end was, and it'll get in a pickle. So just come a bit further back and bring it to the end and just pop that underneath your thumbnail. Go underneath the thread or through it, but before you pull it tight, go through once, whoops, and twice. I'm using black thread. Oh, didn't even do that once, I undid it. Once, twice, I've done it again. One. Right, let's just do one, shall we? I've made a complete mess of that. Right, there we go. You should be able to do two, but for some reason on live I can't manage to do it. Right, let's do. So can you see how I'm actually working all at an angle so that you can't actually see your thread? Oh, that's interesting. So Nikki's using all the same size all the way round. Do you know, I've never tried that, Nikki. That sounds really interesting, and I will give that a go. So 1, 2. There we go. I can do it. Try a knot in 3 different places if you can. And I'm going to actually tie these 2 threads together. Right, so my new thread is now in the same place as my old thread. So I can bank the new needle and let's just tie this one off. So tying in and tying off are pretty much the same thing. So I'm just going to go down here through some of the beads and I'm going to tie off in the same way. I don't think I've got enough thread here for another couple of places. So because my needles come undone, you get the gist, okay? So let's just go back. So that's where I tied in. That is the extra tail that I can chop off, and obviously once you've tied the other one off you can cut that one off as well, like so. Now I think we'll use this to actually show you now how we finish this off. So I've got a crystal rondelle which are also included in your little bundles as well. Gosh, I've got to try and remember what to do now. Where's my sample piece? Right, I'm pretty sure I'm going to use different colours just so that you can see that I've done 2 and gone to the next A bead. Isn't it terrible? Forget what you've done. Like so. Then another 2 and go round to the next A bead. And another 2 and go through the A bead that you came out of first of all. Alright, so if you pull that in, you've got a little bit that covers on the end. Let's just go back to this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reinforce all of those, including the A bead. And then, oops, let's move all of this out of the way. So I'm just going to come out the middle of one of them. I'm going to add a crystal. And then, so I will do the clasp end. Where's my clasp? And then I'm going to add 1, 2, 3 beads, go through the clasp end, add another 3 beads, and then go back down the crystal. And then we're going to anchor it on, which side is that? So we're going to anchor it on here. Talking to myself again. And let's just reinforce and go back round to the other side. Come out of that crystal again. I'll just check you can see. And what I'm going to do is reinforce by going back up again, because you don't want your clasp sitting on one thread. You want to do it a couple of times. And you want to pull that tension in as well. Right. So this time I'm going to go through, whoops, sorry, the other seed bead. Don't need that. And we will just go back round again and just reinforce one more time. Got to try and find where the other crystal is. Where are we? So we come out the other side. So you're just really working in seed beads opposite each other, but to be honest, you shouldn't be able to see that anyway. So you want to try and get that so that it sits in the centre. And what you could always do at the end is just anchor it a little bit more. Right, so let's just show you that. So that's quite neat, that little ending. And I repeated the same the other side to actually do the hook, like so. So I will do it the other end if I've got enough thread. I think I have. Right, I have threaded my needle on. Right, where are you? There you are. Now it is, if you're going to use tubing, it is easier, excuse me, I'm just threading my needle. If you're using tubing, it's really much easier if you thread the tubing as you go. Right, let's just move this out of the way. Now, I'm just actually twisting the tubing so that it goes right down to the bottom. Not quite there yet. Almost there. But I just like how it feels with the tubing. But would love to know how many of you are either has it inspired you when you've done it before to get those beads out and do it again, make something new, or perhaps trying some of the other tips like from Nikki about using all the same size beads, or Francis using the bugles. Right, I'm just going to trim this off like so. So I don't need that. And this is just really a repeat of what we did before. There we go. Or if you learnt something new, perhaps you've not done one with a clasp before, or perhaps you're not really sure how to add a clasp and it's given you a bit of inspiration. Now, this is the only thing about tying knots at the start, is that when you actually come to going through the same holes again, it can be a bit tight. So Carol said, lovely, beautiful, would love to give it a go. Fantastic. Don't forget to share your mates. It's especially as it's getting towards the end of the month as well. We have some new winners of the month. Kim is going to make a necklace. It's the glass pearls, and she hasn't made one before. Do you know, this is one of my favourites to make. I love, my probably first choice for a necklace would be to actually make it without a clasp. I'm not sure I'm going to get that in again. Right, let's just go back and we can add in the other crystal. There we go. Nikki is going to go back and try with bigger beads. Fantastic. Right, I just need to grab another clasp. Bear with, because I've already done the hook the other end. Linda, I've done it without the clasp, with elastic through the middle as a stretch piece. Oh, I like the sound of that. Right, how many beads did I use on the clasp? That was 6. 1, sorry, I'm going off camera. 2, 3 through the clasp. Christine's going to be calling you, Sue. She's going to have a go. I love the necklace we did using the duos. Yes, do you know what? I was looking at that earlier, Sue, and thinking about that. 1, 2. Right, bear with. Just trying to work out where to pop that. That's coming out of that one. Right. Lydia has saved the video to try one tomorrow. Brilliant. I think it's the last little bit that I find can be the most challenging, as you can see. But I think providing you get a good tension on there and you anchor it sort of in the middle either side, there we go. Now this does take time, obviously, and they're, you know, perhaps not the quickest to do if perhaps you're doing for craft fairs. But what you could always do is you could always take a sample of 1 or 2 with you, and then maybe you could take some sample beads with you at the same time. You know, and then that saves you having to make lots. And also what you could do is you could custom make it as well, couldn't you? You could custom make it for them and get their size. Kim might do a button clasp as a focal bead like my Super Duo ropes. Oh, nice. Yes, I like the sound of that. Now, where are we? There. Right, so there we go. That's your bracelet completed. Obviously, I mean, you could always have an extender on there, but I just like the fact that there's not too much silver. Is there another way to clasp it? I mean, you could sew a toggle clasp on it. You can actually join the 2 ends together without doing that end bit as well. You know, perhaps some of the ladies might be able to come up with some suggestions for you that have made them as well before. What sort of clasps were you thinking of, Emma? Is there a specific sort of look that you were wanting to go for? And then I just tie that off. Sometimes it can be difficult to actually see the best way to go, but just make sure, most important thing is that you don't suddenly start crossing over where you can see your thread. Something nice and simple. I would say this probably is the simplest way to end it, because you don't really want to just finish the bracelet. You need to taper it in, and that really allows you to do that. a nice little knot on there. Nikki just stitched a pyramid of beads to finish it. Perhaps you could show us, you know, if anybody's got any way of finishing that you could share in our beaders group, that would be so useful. So I really like that, and I like the fact that you can't actually see that tubing. So there we are. It's so pretty. Have a go. I hope you enjoyed that tonight. Thank you for joining. Speak to you all soon. Bye.